It's 4K sky watching time. It's that time again.
Red alert!
Happy Friday, everyone. It's September 26th, 2025. It's 4K sky watching time. Welcome to the 4K sky watching podcast, episode 6. We are going back in time and doing a prequel for one that I screwed up and accidentally deleted, so we're going to fill in this information gap. I've been wanting to do this for a while. Tonight is going to, this podcast is going to be dedicated to getting a thermal camera hooked up with UFODAP software. This can be confusing as hell, and it is. This is not one of the easiest tasks there is because it's not plug and play exactly. It's plug and pray because there's a number of steps that you need to do to get this working. And I'm here tonight to solve all this and get them figured out. So if you're one of the people that bought a UFODAP camera, or not UFODAP camera, a thermal camera off eBay, which I can't find them anymore, but these things were, a year ago, they were all over like candy, thousands of these things. And they were like $100 or $200. They got so many of them, the price went from $400 down to $200, and then back up to $400, and now you can't find them. There's a whole bunch of people that have these cameras, and I got every way from Sunday to show you how to figure this out. And if you already have this running, I'm probably going to show you some ways to run it that you haven't even thought of before, or to optimize your home equipment. So one thing that we have to start off the bat is the IP address. The IP address of your system, if you're going to work live with UFODAP and use it with the internet, has to be kind of fixed up. I'm also going to show you how to use it without the internet. So you can take a laptop on the road with you and hook up any type of IP camera. So we're going to get into that too. So one thing that, so I have UFODAP up and running right here on one of the thermal cameras already. In the description above are a number of files that you will need for your thermal camera. So you're going to need to unzip those cameras or the RAR file and install them. And you're going to need this as your guide on how to do all that. We just had a thunderstorm roll through town. We don't have them very often. We had rain about the size of my pinky fingernail, about that size. We don't get, or not rain, hail. We had some hail come down. We don't see hail too often here. So I did turned on the cameras, and for members of the channel that support it, did just a here's a storm skywatch. Let's see what in the hell goes down. I also optimized my system since the last 4K Skywatch, and um, I went up and I put a utility box up, and if I didn't, most of these cameras here probably would have failed. I also added a new video card into the system. Um, so if I want, I can flip the radar on and whatnot and look at stuff if I need to do that. But yeah, I never really do that. So yeah, I got the system up here running. Find my window here, my stuff. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to make sure that you have a proper IP address. So what we're looking at here is config tool, and I'll show you how to use this too. Config tool is a must-have of IP cameras. So there's an address above in the description of where to download this free software. So with this config tool running, this is showing what I have on my network. So if you're going to use the internet, you have to have a network address of 192.168.1, whatever your internet's going to, other IP address. 195 right there is, that's the, what one is that? That's the new Dahua camera I got. The other one below it is the thermal camera. That's what that 115. This is an NVR. This is the windshield wiper camera. This is a dome camera, and this is an NVR. So the reason I'm telling you this is because if you don't have this, if you don't have this IP address, this is just not going to work. You're going to be absolutely stuck. So we're going to start off with people who use Cox Communication as their IP. Now, Starlink, from what I know, their default router address is 192.168.1.1. That's good. That's what you want to have. So that will solve a lot of problems if you got to connect the UFODAP software. It's internally built in that you have to have this certain style IP address if you're going to go live, right? Through a network like I'm showing you right here. But you can also use it with a laptop. I'm going to show you that. This is going to be a bit of a confusing thing. So I'm going to start off and I'm going to show you with this first video how to log into Cox, because Cox doesn't have this IP address as default. It's 192.168.0.1. So this is a problem. You won't be able to get you'll be stuck in the mud with UFODAP OTDAU. You won't be able to get it to work. Because the default address is 192.168.1.108. Now, every single camera that you get when you factory reset them, 192.168.1.108. So if you got Cox and you got that damn zero as the third decimal area, it's just simply not going to work. So I'm going to show you how to log into Cox, how to, it's going to ask you to change your password, and then where you go exactly to change that IP address. So you're good to go with UFODAP, and you're not dead in the water. Now, Cox, if you were to call them, they will by default tell you to use the app. And you absolutely cannot change your IP address with the app. In fact, the people who work at Cox don't even know that you can go into a browser and log in and change all this stuff. You can do port forwarding, all kinds of stuff. So let's get started with that. This is changing your router IP address, Cox ISP only. Now, go to 192.168.0.1. That's going to be the address of your router. Username is admin. Password is password, lowercase. That's going to log you in, and it's going to ask you to change your password since you're using the default password. So go ahead and type in
the new password. So you're going to type in password as your old one, and then type in your new password at this location. And the goal here is to change 192.168.0.1 to 192.168.1.1. So I'm going to show you how to do this now. So now that my password is changed, I'm going to log into Cox with my new password. If you screw this up, you can just use the reset button by holding that down for about 30 seconds while the power is on. Now, I'm inside the Cox area. Now, if you call them on the phone, they'll tell you to use the app. You can't do this on the app. You have to use a browser. So log into the address up at the top. You're going to go over to where it says connection and click on that. From there, you're going to want to go to local IP network. And then at the top where it says gateway address, simply just put a 1 there and then hit save settings. That's for IP version 4. You don't need to mess with IP version 6 at all. This is going to take a few minutes for it to change, and when it does, now you'll be able to log in to the password 192.168.1.1. And the reason you need to do this is because the UFODAP software is looking for an IP address of 192.168.1.1. If you happen to have an IP address 192.168.0.1, you will not be able to talk to UFODAP software at all. So this is needed to be done. You can also look at your IP config, and that will tell you your gateway or your router IP address has successfully been changed.
Today we're going to go through these Dahua thermal cameras. I picked this up used off of eBay for $199. Came with the box. This is the third unit that I bought. First one came with the box, second one and everything. The second one just came with the unit, no box, no tool. So let's open this up, get this configured. This is a great sky watching tool, but it is a bit hard to hook up. So that's what this video is about, is to walk you through all the trials and tribulations and headaches and whatnot that you're going to see when you dive into one of these. So here is the box, the padding. That's how we have. These are the outside things that you'll use to waterproof it when you go to set that up. There, somewhere in here should be a tool. If not, I have one. It's a wrench that we use to tighten this up. These cameras are a lot bigger than they see in the pictures. So here we go. Still has a plastic. Looks like it's... That doesn't even look like they've taken this out and used it. It looks like they opened it, didn't use it, and then close it, because I'm going to have to break this plastic to get it out. So if they didn't break the plastic to get it out, then that means this has never been used before. So usually you can tell by the use, because they'll have dent marks around here and up around the rim where they get installed. So this one doesn't seem to have the plate. Some of these come with the mounting plate like this, and this is a tripod mount that you're going to want to use to put on a tripod. The other ones I've been bolted through these 4 bolts onto the house of wood. But let's see if the tripod mount is in here. Not, we'll use that tripod mount. And we have this. And let's open up the bag and see if there is a wrench. If not, I'll hump my wrench down. The wrench is essential to mounting this. And there's that. I'm not even sure if my other one has more stuff. So, just sticker for some reason, and your instruction manual. Which, men, we don't need instruction manuals, do we? But sometimes we do, because the first thing we're going to do is plug this in, then we're going to do a factory reset and walk through the IP addresses and everything you'll need. This is a used camera, but let's assume you bought this brand new from Ron Olch, or you got it somewhere brand new. So how we have this hooked up
So you have this camera. Most of them have a reset area. We have this camera right here. It's hooked up through an Ethernet cable. This is a PoE Injector. This is a cheap one, costs about 19 bucks. I'm going to flash up where I got that. If it's green, you probably don't have it plugged in right. If it's red, for some reason, it's plugged in right. This particular camera makes clicking sounds. For how to do this use, skip ahead to the next section. Then the PoE goes into the computer, and it goes into this USB connector. Some computers have RJ45 slots. If you don't, this thing right here doesn't cost very much, so that is the connection. In this instance, we're going to assume that the camera you got was from eBay, in this case the thermal, and it's used. So most cases you can do a reset. So in here is a reset button. So what you do is you power up the camera and you hold this button down for 10 seconds. Hell, let it go 15. Just hold it down, and this will reset the IP address to 192.168.1.108. Just make sure you don't have any cameras on your network that are .108, or you will have an IP conflicting problem. Download and install the Dahua config tool. Go to this address and download either the Windows version or the Mac version of the Dahua config tool. We'll now initialize it with the config tool. All cameras will come uninitialized, brand new, or if you do a factory reset. Now, to initialize this camera, you'll need to hit the check box right there. Then you'll hit initialize. And if it gives you some grief, just keep going at it until you follow along what you're going to see on the screen here. And this will work for other IP cameras besides Dahua. So you can try this with any camera. There's the default address, 192.168.1.108. Put in a password here. I use usually the same password for all these cameras, because when you got like dozens of cameras, having different passwords for each one is a nightmare. So uncheck email address, I don't need that. Uncheck these two and hit OK. And now your camera's initialized. What that means is it's finally turned on, so that way an NVR can see it. So you can plug it into an NVR and whatnot. This part's hell. Installing ieability. You will need to do this for thermal cameras, and it only works in Chrome. So go to ieability.com, follow the instructions here, or follow the instructions on the website. Add it as an extension to Chrome, and uninstall the offline version. If you don't follow all these instructions, this simply will not work. Because when you put the IP address of the camera to install it, it's going to ask you to install a plugin. And the plugin will not work unless you have this ieability installed. So I have it installed. And look at the extension at the top where the IP address would be. You need to make sure you have that E checked. And then look at the IP address up at the very tail end, 192.168.1.108. That's the address of the camera. I don't know if we need that other crap up there where it says Chrome extension and all that hash numbers, but this is how I do it. So now, if you even see the screen where you can see the admin, here you're in good shape. So anyway, I have this running, putting in the password, and now I finally log into the browser. If you see this, it's success. You got it to work. So this is the color in the thermal camera. In the settings here is where you get all the different magic and different things. Channel 1 is color, channel 2 is thermal. This is where you can change it from white hot, hot black, thermal, blow blow, all that other stuff. That'll be coming up here in a deep dive of different settings. So just remember, this is where you change the IP address too. Now, I typically change it from the .108 because I have dozens of cameras and I can't have them all .108. So I usually change them, but in this tutorial I'm going to keep them 192.168.1.108. But if you have a bunch of cameras, you're going to want to change that IP address, and in the settings is where you will change that IP. ieability is the most difficult part of this. You will not be able to access this in Opera, Safari, IE, Firefox, just Chrome with this ieability plugin. What I'm doing here is I'm changing it from Celsius to Fahrenheit. Every time you do a change, you must hit save on that screen for the saves to hold. So now when I click on things, I can tell the exact temperature in Fahrenheit. Now if you're in Europe, you're going to want to use the default Celsius. Change in thermal advanced heat settings. So here we're going to do a deeper dive into some of the settings. This may be helpful to you. What we're seeing here is out of the 3 thermal cameras, the one in the center has a fog issue. So there's condensation that got inside the camera after several days of rain. It did not go away by itself. I did try turning on the defogger. It did not seem to work. Even setting the camera out in the Phoenix heat with 10 degree sun did not bake away that condensation. In this area, you can change the resolution of camera 1 and camera 2. So if it's too high or too low, or you're having issues, you can go in there and you can change the resolution of the camera. A lot of this stuff you'll never need to mess with, but some of it you will. These cameras were built for tracking human temperatures during COVID. So if you had the flu, this could look at crowds of people, find out something is too hot, and maybe do an email alert or whatever they chose to do with this particular camera. So here we're in the video overlay. You see save, refresh, and default buttons at the bottom of all of these. And that's where you hit save, refresh, or default. Here is where you can change the filters for your thermal. This is rainbow. I like to use white hot myself. Black hot is kind of murderous on the eyes watching these day in and day night. You do get more, I believe, details out of the ones in color, because the color palette is more extensive of RGB than it is the black and white. With black and white, you only have so many shades of gray to see, but with color, you got millions. So I think you can get more detail out of color. That's my theory. There's Ice Fire. But yeah, you can see Ice Fire has some different heat details that you just wouldn't see in some of the other colors. This is part of the 3 cameras that are hooked up to my thermal fork on the chimney. This is also interesting because you can see in Phoenix an entire blanket of heat that sits over the top of us. So it'll be up to you what you want to do with your thermal camera. You can also adjust the brightness and contrast and sharpness. I never really messed with any of that stuff with the thermal, to tell you the truth. It works pretty good out of the box. I will say that the color camera that comes with this is only HD, but it is beautiful at night. With the stars, the color camera can see tons and tons of stars in the Phoenix area. There is red and green, also kind of murderous on the eyes. Summer, so they give you these different filters. If you try to access these through an NVR, you won't be able to do it. They just, at least the NVR I have anyway, can't do it. Maybe there's some other newer ones that are built specifically for the thermal cameras, but I haven't found anything that is like a drop down with the dozen or so different filters. So you can see as I pan up, the black heat kind of stays there from sepia. But in some of the other thermal filter colors, it changes depending on what you're looking at. So this is what I was saying, like with the missile that hit the UFO. You really don't know what you're looking at unless you look through thermal all the time. You really don't, because you're just looking at heat, and you're looking at a sensor that's seeing heat. They can see through walls on a limited scale. On the house across from me, you could see the 2x4s through about a half an inch of wood, showing you the heat up there in the attic. So there's some interesting things you can do on here. You can turn on hot trace. What hot trace does is it'll give you the highest and the lowest temperatures. So you can set the highest and the lowest. The lowest I've seen this do is -40, and I think the highest I've seen this do is about 150 degrees on 4th of July. I aimed this at some hamburgers and hot dogs. It was 155 degrees. And then when I aimed it at the pavement or the asphalt in front of my house, it was 150. So I imagine this will go up to probably 400 if you were to tape a very hot fire. So there's a number of different things in here. I don't know if you really need them for ufology, but yeah, they're there. So now at the top of the screen, you can see the hot trace is on and working. This can be helpful to measure the temperature of a UFO. I've been using that to collect temperatures of helicopters and balloons and birds and whatnot. So hot trace, however, if you are using hot trace with UFODAP, the UFODAP could see the hot trace and trigger because of the hot trace. I've had that happen. So if that does trigger your UFODAP, you can go in here and turn that off. But it is a helpful thing because we really don't know much about the temperatures of UFOs aside from Dave Mason, who has a differential flare that can see temperature changes down to about a degree or half a degree. And he's found that UFOs are freezing, that they go beyond the limits of this camera. Maybe it's -22 the camera goes to instead of -40. But he's recorded UFOs down to -60. So there's very extreme cold has been recorded on some of them. So this is useful to help collect more information. And if you have any tips that you know on this camera, leave them in the comments below, and let's exchange some ideas. There's possibly all kinds of things that I just haven't even bothered to look at that are in these menus. So right now I'm looking through some of the different thermal options with different filtering that you can do on them to see if it does anything at all. But the whole idea of why I started collecting these thermal sensors is to try and see if UAP or UFOs are visible through heat, but invisible in the visual RGB colors. Now you can see a plane in the distance that is picked up on thermal, but you just can't see in color just yet. So even though the sensor for thermal is about 400 pixels across, it can see a distance. Now what I found is they cannot see out farther than about 35,000, 40,000 feet. It's about the limitations of where they stop seeing. You cannot see stars with thermal. You cannot see satellites with thermal. Do not point your thermal devices at the sun or extremely hot things like that, because you can have burn-in happen. That has happened to me a couple of times. It leaves a streak in the camera, but the streak does go away, but it does damage the thermal sensor in the long run. Here I'm trying to mess around with the defogger. I never could get this to defog, so I simply just took the camera inside, left it indoors for a couple of weeks. The defog went away, and I swapped it out with a different thermal camera that didn't have the issues. Now, connecting the thermal camera to the OTDAU 2.25. I want to show you 3 different ways to do this. Here's how I do. I'm going to give you the files to unzip. First thing you do is you go to C drive OTDAU configurations, right? Then you're going to load this thermal test file. You are going to have to do some modifications, and I'll walk you through those in this video. This loaded 2 different C file or camera files here. The one that says wide is thermal. The one that does not say wide above is color. 27.0.0.1 means your computer. You should have the port to 54,000. That's how I use mine. So I'm going to close that window, and now I'm going to load this camera profile. It is going to load a thermal camera on the right screen and a color camera on the left screen. So instead of, usually you just have the same camera in both screens for dome cameras and whatnot. This one you get different cameras. If something goes wrong, and it will, read this box. There's 4 things that are going to go wrong with your camera for it not to connect. Username and a password are incorrect, or the IP address is not correct, or the port number is not correct. As long as you have port 54,000, like I showed you, you'll be good. So here we're seeing this IP address, 192.168.1.108. It's the default. We have admin there. I have the one UFO video for my password. One UFO video is in the string right there. Make sure the string right there also has your IP address for troubleshooting. Over in the top upper right where it says LAN gateway, that's 192.168.1.1. We changed that earlier with Cox if you have Cox. So I close that, and what I'm going to do now is modify it. We're going to click on that. I'm going to hit the wide right there, and we're going to load basically 2 thermals. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit save. Notice that these are under cameras, OTDAU cameras. That's where the 2 files need to reside. There's going to be a total of 5 files that you'll need to run this. I know Ron Olch doesn't like this method, but I'm giving it to you anyway. He would prefer you just use the stuff with the system, but this is kind of a custom hack. So now I'm going to load that profile again after I saved it. See it, 2 wides there. That's going to load 2 thermals, camera profiles. And what that means, what you can do with this is while you're recording, you can have 1 clean thermal, like on the right, and 1 dirty thermal on the left with the heads-up display screens on there. This is how I set my camera recording normally. Is I have the 2 checkboxes under primary video. I have the precache set to 5 under data path. That'll be a D drive folder where I save all the UFODAP stuff. So this is the second camera profile that you have. Now what I'm going to do is load color on the right. So that's how you do it. You do that, and I hit save over the same file. And this is your user's guide to get all this running. So now I closed it. Now I'm going to reopen the exact same file, test thermal test, a little dyslexic here, and that's going to load color, I believe on the right, and thermal on the left. This is so swapping these around is good sometimes for doing it at night. So think outside the box, right? You can come up with your own stuff. There's different ways you can hook this up. Once you get it up and running, that's when all the good magic comes from UFODAP. Now, these are the basic path files you're going to need. There's 5 of these files. The main one is under C drive, OTDAU configuration folder thermotest.json. These are just text files, but they're called JSON, right? So my password on this is one UFO video. So you're going to need to change that with your password. That's very, very important, or this won't work. I have the default .108 IP address. It needs to match both there and in the video URL string. You also have to replace the password a second time down there where it says password. You're going to need to do this on all these files with the password. So there's our configuration settings you saw from the GUI screen. So nothing else in here to change. Primarily just change the password. Now in these other ones under camera, you're going to have to change the password too. So again, make sure you always have the consistent IP address the same. That's the one that you're going to use in a browser. Test in a browser before you test in UFODAP. Change these 2 passwords from one UFO video to your passwords that you have in the camera when you initialized it. Same thing, check all these files at the top. This is pretty straightforward. There's no programming involved. You're just going to be swapping out mainly that password if you still have the 192.168.1.108 default IP address. And then under program files, x86 OTDAU cameras. Again, these 2 files are somewhat abbreviated from the other ones, so don't copy and paste them in each. There's a little bit of a difference, so look here. You have to basically just redo that one UFO video to your password in those spots. If you have problems, leave them in the comments so this video will help you out. This is hard to get working, but you can do it. Now this section is connecting a thermal camera without the internet, or if you get any camera, you get a used camera off eBay, you don't know what the IP address is, you can't reset it, I'm going to help you out right now. As always, you're going to plug the camera into a PoE Injector, you're going to plug it in your computer, and then you're going to run config tool. Sometimes it doesn't come up immediately, give it a second to warm up. But I connected to this same thermal camera to my NVR, and it changed the IP address to 10.1.1.66. So that's the IP address. So this is handy when I go out and I go on location. This is the setup I use. So let's go ahead and ping 10.1.1.66. Let's see what happens. Nothing. Complete failure. So we're going to fix that. Now, if you have a camera initialized and you can't get it to work, it's always network problems. And it can be dicey, so I'm going to show you how this works. I have a lot of network connections. So many of them, I don't even remember which one is connected to the thermal camera. I don't remember the name out of all those. So I disconnected, I unplugged it, and I'm going to plug it back in. Whatever pops back up, that's it. There it is, that one. The one right there. That's the one I'm going to do. Go right-click and go to Properties. Then go to Internet IP Connection 4. Whatever's in there, get rid of it. So I'm just going to cycle it out. What I'm going to do now is type in this box 10 and then .1, .1.2. I'm going to assign this an IP address on the same network the camera was last seen on. Hit the tab button. It'll put in the network mask. Hit OK. Hit OK. Now that should be connected. To confirm it first, let's ping it and see the results. See, we now have access to that camera, so I do know this is going to work. Next up, we need to get this working in UFODAP. Next up, we need to adjust the IP addresses of the OTDAU files. I always keep the password the same because you'll see why now. Same 5 files are loaded. So what we need to do is to change the IP address from 192.168.1.108 to 10.1.1.65. So to do that fast, what we're going to do is find in files. We're going to type the IP address in find 192.168.1.108 and replace with 10.1.1.66. We're going to select all the files. We're going to hit replace all. It's going to do it. And then we're going to close. From there, just check these files real quick. Make sure the IP address is swapped out in 2 places. Where the 192 is switched with the 10 IP address. Looks good. Looks good. Looks good. Great. That saved a hell of a lot of time. So remember that if you got to flip-flop your IP addresses back and forth on these 5 files. Once you get this up and working and you understand the file trees, it's not bad. So from here on, we're ready to open up the software. Almost. One step left. The next thing we need to do is go to your OTDAU folder and click on Licensing Data. We need to change the IP address from 192.168.1.108 to 10.10.1.166. If you don't, you will get stopped when you go to open up the main software. So this is saving you some headache. So now we're going to open up 2.225. The licensing sees the IP address. It says the camera's good because it's plugged in. And now all we have to do is load up the JSON file, thermal test, and if everything's done, we are going to be operating UFODAP in the middle of BF Egypt with no internet connection, or Skinwalker Ranch, or any other ranch, Hidden Valley Ranch, whatever. So if you like these instructions, man, make sure you hit that freaking like button and subscribe, and leave some comments. And if you're stuck, leave some comments. I'll help you fix this and get through it so you can record UFOs just like me.
Now that we've went through the basics, it's time to go through some more advanced levels of hooking up UFODAP to an NVR. This is how I run the thermal fork. There's 3 of these thermal cameras. Thermal 2, though, runs through the UFODAP, and then it goes into the NVR. And I want to show you how to do that, because if something goes through the second camera, I could look at thermal 3 and thermal 1 and see if I got more video. So thermal 2 is watched by UFODAP, and then you just have folders to check. And if there's anything in the folders, you go to the NVR and um, you see the full video then, instead of just the clip that UFODAP got. So I'm going to show you how you do that in NVR um, here. So in the NVR, down here where it says these channels that are added, you see the 10.1.1.69 or 67. Those are the thermals that are plugged into the NVR. Okay, the 192.168.1.15, now that's the center one. That's thermal 2. That's not plugged into the NVR. That's plugged into the switch. And then the switch is plugged into the router. The NVRs, so that way they're all in the network. So I would hit search device up above, and I could add any of those devices to the NVR. But first, I run them through UFODAP. So here's how it works. The one that 10.10.67, that's the left, 69 is the right. The thermal one goes through the UFODAP, and the .200 is the 2K dome camera with the windshield wiper on. So that's how I have that laid out. So the idea is you still get the NVR, you still get all of it, but one of them you can run through UFODAP, so it saves you time. But what's going through 3 of these? You just got to run them through 1. So it took me a while to kind of get this all figured out. Now you could plug all 3 of them into UFODAP. But what I found is if you plug too many in the switch, you're going to overload bandwidth. Some things start to stutter because the dome cameras are plugged into the switch. So I'll show you, here's a topo map of topology map of the network here that's fairly fresh. So how I have this set up is the Wi-Fi 6 router from Cox. If you're with Cox, make sure you're using their newest router. It's faster than their ones from before, and it doesn't cost you any money. You have to rent them, unfortunately, and you can't buy them. From there, it's plugged into the switch. And then from there, yeah, the radar would be plugged in. But that's up on the pole. In this room, I got a PoE injector that runs some of these other things. But this radar right here has its own PoE, so that's not exactly plugged in. And then I have the home security system, and that's not plugged into the network at all. And then, yeah, one of the dome cameras is plugged into the switch. With the 8-port, another switch, I have the thermal 3 on a Pelco PTZ. But yeah, I since moved the center one directly to the switch because I didn't know you could do all this back then. And then, yeah, then I have the center dome camera, windshield wiper guy there too. I would like to run the 2K Dahua through UFODAP, but I don't have any drivers or anything for that. And I can get them to work, but it crashes when it goes to turn. So there's some kind of driver issue going on with that. So I can even get cameras that aren't on the drop-down list and kind of hack my way into them. Now, here's how I would suggest you set up your own home system to optimize it the best. If you can get a switch with PoE, you don't need an 18 port. That's kind of crazy. Probably everybody can get away with a 4. And then from there, run your thermal camera directly into the switch. And then from the switch, like in port 1, it comes to the back of my NVR and it plugs into the internet area. So that way I have access to everything plugged into here. And that feeds it internet into the network. So that's how I would do that. And it's complicated. It's complicated to get all that done. So I would just start wherever you are at in this, and then go forward, and you'll get your thermal camera up and running, optimized. Another thing you can do with this, and I downloaded the instructions above. I'm going to include that weird URL that I had in ieability, so that way I'm going to put it in the upper description. You can copy and paste that because that's too complicated to type that um, type of shit out. Now I've UFODAP up and running based on the files that I downloaded. I did change the IP address using that replace. I got to say, it wasn't finding files; it was using the replace. And Notepad made a typo error there in my mouth. But this is UFODAP running right now. So keep in mind, I'm also running it on the other computer uh, down below. So that's also running an instance of it. So like what you can do with that, you can open up one instance and you can say, well, this one I'm running double thermal. So when it goes to record, I'll get a clean screen, plus I'll get this screen too. But then you can run another instance of it either on the same computer if you have the horsepower to do it. Most people I found can do about two instances. You just click on OTDAU again and open up another copy and then run another version, or have another computer and then type up the same IP address. Then you can run different computers and different profiles, because some of the stuff you really want to have a jackknife ability of recording options. Like, for instance, when you record it, sometimes you want to have just the clean, but then sometimes you want to have it the telephoto. Like maybe you want to get that. Or there's really cool tracking built in here too. So it's which ones do you want? Do you want it in color? Do you want it in thermal? At night you can flip them around like I was showing. So that's how I run the thermal here in the network. This after having it for a while, making some choices and other decisions. That's how I have it optimized. Um, so yeah, I want to hear feedback from other people that have to deal with rain. Um, Hell, let me pull the thing up. We just got dumped on, and with an inch and 3/4 of rain is what my gauge in the back says we got. And when this happened around March 13th during that Skywatch, we had a hell of a lot of rain back then too, and that's when it fogged up the thermal camera in the center. And I could never get that to fix with the. That's what I was showing, the fogging stuff. I couldn't get it to fix, so what I did was just, I hated to do it, but I took it down, and that one's difficult to take down because then you got to take the whole thing off. I can't just unscrew it from the center and the way I made it. So anyway, I just put it inside for a while, but that you can't really do that. That's not an option if you live somewhere up north where it's going to rain and snow and you go through condensation problems. I went through a lot of condensation problems still with the 5423 dome camera, and it's a great camera, but sometimes when there's no rain, it just fogs up inside. I found the internal fog thing doesn't do a damn thing. Because yeah, you can't skywatch if it's always a certain side of the dome. I found be the west side always had the condensation. When the sun would come up for whatever reasons, there wouldn't be any on the east side. But yeah, so that's that. So I'm going to wrap this up. This is episode 6. This is a mulligan episode to figure out how to hook up FLIR and UFODAP. Now, Santa Claus came early, and he seems to come around here often. So I got this thing delivered today. So this is a PVS 7 made by ATN. And this skull-crushing device here does not fit my brain, my head, because there's too many brains up there or something. It fits other people. I don't know. I'm too tall. But I don't plan to really use it this way. But when I look at it, it already has like I want to. My goal is to mount a binoculars or this to when I make my own custom tripod mount. So I'm going to put it on that, and then I want to have a phone that somehow is mounted on the tripod mount too. So we have 4K um, Generation 3 Skywatching coming up on the next Skywatch. So I'm going to have to figure this out because even if it's meant to look like this, but if you flip it up and down, all of us nerds know there's a fucking flip button, or you flip the phone, whatever the hell. There'll be some workaround or reach around me figuring this out. And another thing I was thinking is I had this, I got this, I was messing around with this, and there's a ring here that locks the focus. I didn't know what the hell it was. I didn't have my ring glasses on, and I got it locked, and I couldn't focus it. I'm like, what the F? I could not get this dang thing to work. So I emergency called 911, and Dave Mason answered. That's who I call. And he's like, well, Tom, here's how it works. Because I don't know how it works. I didn't want to break it, and I got this dang thing loose. So we'll be taking this to Sedona pretty quick, don't you think, Dan? Why, Chris? Yep. Taking this puppy up there maybe next week. I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. I'll figure that out. I might have to start selling something off. Um, so if you like this stuff, this is free. Hit that thumbs up button. Most of you have. Hit the subscribe button. More alerts will come up when there's more new nerd instructions like this in Skywatches. And let's just before we leave, let's just go see what is going on in the sky around Phoenix right now. So we just had a pretty intense thunderstorm come through, and there was lightning up there. And I thought, you know what, this could get hit, but F it. I was just wingding that. So far, UFODAP is up and running. Hasn't got nothing yet. So it's good to see you. Cheeky bastard was in there. Chief Fox was earlier. I was doing also another thing you can do is you can join the channel. Um, you get some extra videos. I did a Skywatch earlier today for a couple of hours. The thunderstorm is on that. So if members are watching, you didn't see it. I need to create a new category of just Skywatches for members, and then that goes in there too. And then we'll be doing more of just using the whole system and whatnot. But this is episode 6. We'll see you guys next time on this channel. And I appreciate everybody showing up. Yeah, Dan will be heading back to Sedona. But our time code in Arizona never changes. Your guys' time code changes. Some kind of shifty, weird shit with the matrix there we got to deal with. But yeah, cool. See you next Friday. Thanks for watching.